Good morning. Happy Wednesday. It is another beautiful day here in South Texas, and I'm excited about this video. Gonna be super vulnerable with you guys because it is something that a lot of us struggle with. If you have ever felt the fear of failure, this video is going to be for you. And I'm going to give you some examples of what I'm currently going through in hopes to encourage you and inspire you maybe, and at the same time to just let you know that you're not alone, because we are all in this crazy life together. But with God, things are possible, but we need to be stepping into our call. So I have mentioned a few videos ago, I don't know, maybe last week, I mentioned about how there was something that I had been praying about because I feel like God is calling me to do this, and that I was going to start figuring out next steps and, you know, journaling. And I already knew what I needed to do. Like, I already knew what I needed to do. But just like all of us, I was delaying and procrastinating because it's just so much easier to do that, right? You're like buying yourself time, and you are like diving into this realm of fear and anxiety and overthinking that we just don't act, right? So last week I made a story on Instagram about wanting to know if women would go to a local like women's group, like a meetup. I have had this in my heart since last year to do some sort of like women's ministry, like a local group, to build community. I feel like one of the things that as a woman and as a mother and just as a wife, like one of the things that I feel like has been I don't know, necessary in my life has been a closer community, like having more friends with the same values. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that feel that sense of needing a friend, right? And last year I tried to do this online. I created an online group and so many people joined. But I think that the reason that it didn't work out and the reason that I stopped it was because I feel like God was telling me, like, not yet, like this isn't what I meant, like this isn't the vision that I gave you. So I've mentioned in other videos how I pretty much like took last year, I felt like a really big stop from the Lord to stop striving to just like go. I think my heart posture was not correct. I was still focusing on this idea of like, how will I make this into a business? And if you watched yesterday's video, you'll understand what I mean with this. Is again, I had this idol of like being a business owner. And so my lens, or like the way that I saw things, was always through that perspective of like, how am I going to make it into a business? And so the heart posture wasn't there. And now, fast forward to like almost a year later, my heart posture has changed. I feel this like I want to feel the need that there is, right? Because I feel like more people need to know about God. Like more people need to be led to God, because we are so broken. We have so many things that we struggle with, and sometimes you just need to have a friend to talk to, right? We're not asking for people to fix our problems. That's why we need God. But sometimes we need a friend to lead us to God. And I feel like the best way that I have learned to grow in my faith, it actually was sparked by a marriage ministry, right? Like having community and fellowship with other believers. And I feel like it's something that God desires for us, to live life with other people. So anyways, long story short, last week I posted about this on stories, thinking like, I don't know, people don't even watch my stories, like just, typical Flor in her head. And I had like over 50 people respond that are local, saying that they would be interested. So I was like, wow. Like, and it's funny because in my head I was like, God, if you tell me that this is your idea, prove it to me and let me know by the number of people that will respond. And it's so funny how we do that. We like ask for signs when like literally God is like, hello, I'm the one that's telling you this. And I know you've been there. I know that there's somebody watching this that has felt that you're almost like Gideon, who is like wanting all of the signs. Like you're wanting God to give you all the signs and then you'll move, right? So I have been thinking about like, what is it that I am so concerned about? Like, why is it that there's a lack of faith there? And in thinking, I feel like there's two things that I'm really, well, one main thing, which is fear of failure, right? How many of us have been called to do things, whether it's like apply for that job, like ask that girl out, ask that boy out or whatever, like ask that, have lunch with that friend, talk to that person about God. Like there's so many opportunities and things that sometimes we are called to do, and yet we don't do it out of fear, right? And fear of failure, especially with things like for example, this like women's group that I want to do, applying for jobs, like starting that business, like those type of things. I feel like we just stop ourselves short because we are so concerned about failing when we haven't even started. Like we haven't even started, and we have so much proof in our life of God working, and yet we lack the faith we think that God is not going to provide in the way that he's provided before. And I've been thinking about why there is a fear of failure. So like, this is how I think. I am just constantly like reflecting and I think that my fear of failure is more of like a fear of people not showing up, and this fear of embarrassment from that. And that's like really hard to say out loud. But let me tell you a story. And I feel like this is definitely like some sort of like trauma maybe. But I think part of it comes from when I was little, when I was like 4 or 5. I, have mentioned in previous videos, I grew up with just my sisters, my parents. Like I don't have any extended family. So like birthdays were always just us. And that was probably like the first year that we had invited people in my classroom, like I was in pre-K or kinder, to my birthday party. And the day of the birthday, like nobody showed up. Nobody showed up. And I remember that. However, I do remember my mom like making the best out of that. Like my best friend had like 5 siblings, and so all of her siblings were there, and then plus my sisters and my parents, and like it ended up being a good party, right? But that somehow has always stuck with me, and ever since then, plus other stuff that has happened where I started to feel like I was unworthy, that combined gave me this feeling of unworthiness and almost like fear of celebration, fear of like I don't want to be embarrassed again, to the point that I've never liked to celebrate my birthday. And that sounds like super sad, but like I've never liked to celebrate my birthday. Last year it was a big prayer of mine that God would help me to be celebrated, to be okay with being celebrated. And I don't know why I feel like emotional, but God is so good. Like he's so good. Like last year I prayed that, and God allowed people to literally shower me with flowers. And if y'all don't know, my name is Flor, which means flowers or flower. And all of my coworkers brought me flowers, and it was such a beautiful thing. Like it was such a small thing, but like God spoke to me through that. Like he was like, I'm listening to you. Like you are worthy. Oh my goodness, I don't want to cry. So yeah, like I struggle with that. And so for me, like as a parent now, when I create events for my children, like for birthdays. It's like a really hard thing for me to do. Like I get very anxious about it and very overwhelmed with like, are people going to show up? Like I don't want to give my kids that experience that I had, and it wasn't anybody's wrongdoing. Like my parents have no fault in that. People just don't show up sometimes, you know? But when I think about doing this group, I know there's a need. I know that there's people that want to do it. It's like the fear of failure, that I'm going to fail at like setting it up and doing it the way that God is wanting me to do it. That's number one. Number two, people not showing up, and then that like re-traumatizing me. And then fear of embarrassment. Like what if nobody shows up and then I embarrass myself? You know what I mean? Like I know there's somebody that needs to hear this video, because you and I are on the same page. And I'm also in a different, I'm seeing things differently right now, because I'm like, God, you wouldn't call me here if it wasn't that you were going to provide, right? In strengthening my faith, in growing in this relationship with God, I can see how he loves to care for his children. Like the fact that he brought me flowers on my birthday, like he cares for me, you know? Why does that make me so emotional? I don't know, it makes me so emotional. But so like for this, it's like I have this fear when I also have faith. So it's like you can't have faith and fear at the same time. So I have to let go of that fear and like dive in fully into my faith, which has been holding me up, which has been allowing me to do all of this stuff. Like I was praying on the way over here this morning. I pray before these videos because I don't want this to be about me. I give examples of my life only to help other people resonate with the stories of like God being good, like you are human, like we are all in this together. Like that's why I say these stories, but these are not for you to come to me. Like I don't have all the answers, but I want them to be a testimony of God working in somebody's life. Because at one point I was like you, in the sense of like, why would God listen to me? Why me? Why would I be, you know, why would God choose me to do certain things, right? So now that I've been, you know, growing in this relationship, it's like I can't lean into that fear. I do not, and I refuse to allow the enemy to steal more things away from me, because for so many years that's what I've been doing. I've been allowing the enemy to come and steal the things that were for me. And I think back about the, you know, the parable of and I'm probably gonna like butcher the story, but you'll get the gist of it, and I'll put it in the description. But the story about the master that gives his, you know, 3 men you know, riches, and he's like, I want to see, you know, what you do with it, basically, right? And the first 2 are given, I think one is given 5, the other one's given 1 or something like that, and then they return double the amount that they're given. And then the third person is given an amount, and instead of doing something with it, he literally goes away to hide it. He buries it and hides it. And so when the master comes back to the ones that doubled their riches, he's like, you know, like you did well. And he blesses them, right? But then he goes to the one that didn't do anything with it, and it's like, why? And I think about that, and I'm like, why do we hide the things that God is like giving us? Like our gifts, our abilities, our resources, like those are all blessings from God that he wants you to do something with. And yet sometimes we are so scared. We have the fear of failure, fear of embarrassment, fear of whatever. Like we have this fear that holds us back, and we bury those gifts And we're like, we don't want to do anything with it. We're not, I'll just hold it here for a later time when I'm more ready. You know what I mean? Like, I've been hiding my gifts for so long that I'm like, no, like, I want to be like the guy that brings back double fold and is a good steward of the things that I've been given. He who is given a little, is trusted with little, will be trusted with more. Something like that. Like, you all know what I'm talking about. I'm going to put that in the description too. But like, how do you want to be blessed if you don't even do anything with the small things? And I'll give you an example. If I am not bold about talking to like my neighbor or like my patient or my sibling about my faith in God, why would God bless me with a ministry, for example, right? Like, if you want to be a business owner, but then you don't know how to steward your money well, like, why would he bless you with something that could potentially be an abundance if you don't even know how to budget your money? I've been there. Like, yeah, been there. Like, we are asking for the positions, we're asking for the abundance, we're asking for the blessings, but with what he gives you, you want to go and hide it and bury it because you're fearing man, because you're fearing failure, because you're fearing embarrassment, because you're fearing I don't know, whatever fear is holding you back. Instead of having faith in the things that God is calling you to, and instead of having faith in the one who created you and the one that's giving you everything in your life, like, all of the Bible talks about all these amazing stories about the power of our God, and yet we still have the, like, we still question it. Oh gosh, yeah. This video is definitely for me more than it is for you. So I know one of the things that I've been praying about specifically about this group that I want to start is like, God, bless me with people that you will just stir their hearts, that will be able to open up like maybe a location where we can meet, or that the resources of how I can put this together, that how they will, you know, make that happen somehow. I don't want any money out of this. I just want to have community and fellowship with other people because it's so needed. And so I hope that this video blesses you and encourages you, and that you start acting in faith instead of being held back by fear, because God has so much more in store for you, but he wants you to steward the things that he's giving you right now in whatever position, situation that you're in. God wants to bless you, but you need to start acting with the gifts that he's given you. You need to start using those things well. It should not matter what other people think. It should not matter what you've been told in the past. It should not, like, God is bigger and better than all of that. I love the fact that I'm doing this video, because it's also this is a testimony. This is a testimony in the making, guys, of what my God will do in this season in my life. I am nobody greater, bigger, fancy, I don't know, celebrity. Like, I'm just a girl who wants to give God her yes, and I will show you guys what God is going to do in my life. Not to brag, not to like pat myself on the back, but to show you that I am there too, struggling, and yet God will make it happen. We'll see you guys tomorrow.